how difficult this place is. We just saw Kyle Kirkwood in the 27 AutoNation car, dominated at Long Beach. Perfect weekend. He was 22nd in practice yesterday. That's how close the competition is.
It was an eventful first practice session yesterday afternoon. We kick it off with Meyer Shank Racing's Elio Castro Neves, who won the inaugural race here. That was a lucky escape. Others weren't so fortunate.
Yeah, Roman Grosjean with all kinds of smoke and trouble at the back end of his race car. But this new concrete section approaching the museum corner has created a bit of a seat hop diff, to use a Supercross term, over in turn 8. Guys experimenting, trying to figure out where the limits are. There's Santino Ferrucci, a nice little seat bounce and then a right front lockup, but this was a ward.
There was nothing nice about this. Wait till you see the front on angle of Pato O'Ward, Mr. Quick Hands, needing to use every bit of those reactionary skills.
Big old bounce, and I mean, just a small miracle, really big miracle, frankly, that stayed out of the wall. Helped a lot by dry grass. If that grass is wet, that is huge destruction. And then Will Power with a wicked fast moment and can't quite keep it on the track, skids through the gravel trap. Luckily, in both of those situations with Power and O'Ward, they're going off and uphill.
Then there was a frustrated Scott McLaughlin. Check this out. He's going to share the love.
This has got some sort of meaning down under. You have to explain this.
One for you, and one for you.
Double emojis.
And afterwards he said, no, it was just heat of the moment. Nothing against the guys. I was frustrated in the moment.
Don't find me. Don't find me.
Exactly.
Let's head down to pit lane, check in with Little Dave Oz. Little Dave Burns.
At least Townsend, he didn't say take a hike to his guys, right? Yes, take a hike. Actually, here at Barber Motorsports Park, take a hike is one of the things you really need to do, because the way that George Barber designed it, there is a lot to see, and you never know what you're going to find when you start hiking the 880 acres or so that he has here on property. The idea was to sprinkle artwork all throughout the area, and the phrase lions and tigers and bears, oh my, comes to mind, but from wild animals to wild people, it's pretty amazing. Then you get to the Vintage Motorsports Museum, which is more than 250,000 square feet of the world's largest vintage motorcycle collection, plus the world's largest Lotus collection. A whole day spent there. You're going to be hungry and you're going to want a picnic, but Lee, there's a problem. We have ants. Big ants. Large mannequin-eating ants that destroy basically hopes and dreams and anything else you wanted to do during that day. So make sure you get out here, make sure you look around and tour around the place, bring your hiking shoes, but watch out for the ants.
And for those of you who have never heard the story, the ants and the spiders and all of the insects that are here, Mr. George Barber, who just paid us a visit here in the booth, by the way, a few moments ago, he was criticized for, at the concept of this place. And a lot of the naysayers said, hey, that's an old landfill. There'll be nothing but spiders and ants, and they'll overcome your dreams. And so that's a little bit of a... I said I could do it,
salute.
and I did it, and I did it. That's a little permanent go away to the naysayers of this concept that is now 20 years old. This unbelievable facility that we love coming to each and every year. And Mr. Barber still has a smile from ear to ear every year the NTT IndyCar Series returns to his track.
You know, it's so inspiring to meet a man like him that has so much passion and excitement and enthusiasm. We just met with him 15 minutes ago. He walked in, a place just opened yesterday, and he was excited to share it. I love that about Mr. Barber, and frankly, his entire staff here, absolutely fantastic group, and we're so lucky to visit each and every year. Kyle Kirkwood sending it down towards the museum.
When you were on your way here yesterday, I know you were watching via Peacock when you could. It was really interesting. Kyle mentioned it. Hinch mentioned it because he had lunch with them about Brian Herter, the new man in this guy's ears on the pit box, just saying, hey, great, we celebrated Long Beach, now park it. That means nothing. This is a new weekend, a new track. There's Brian in the small box there, and we're going to refocus, reset, and go again. Yes, celebrate that and use that as a launch pad, but this is a totally different scenario. First road course of the year, so let's get after it again.
It is hard to tangibly express what value Kyle Kirkwood just inherited by having Brian Herta come on his timing stand. Yeah, he's in the small box, but it's a big impact. If you just think about some of the challenges that Kyle Kirkwood has had stringing together complete races, and then the sharp contrast of total perfection at Long Beach. He did not put a single foot wrong. He was flawless in his execution. The pole, the win, no mistakes, never touched a wall, got hit in the back by O'Ward during that moment, didn't lose control, never lost his cool. I put a lot of that not only on the technique and the ability of Kyle Kirkwood, but the calming big picture effect of Brian Herta on the radio and guiding yet another young driver to victory in IndyCar. Like I said, Kirkwood 22nd yesterday, but the balance of his race car, maybe a tad pushy there in the final corner. Turn 15, the long right-hander, but the back seems really stable on entry.
The man who used to drive the 27 car is now at Arrow McLaren. That's Alexander Rossi. Here he is on screen. One of 3 Arrow McLaren Chevys this year. Yesterday, Alexander was 11th quickest on the timesheets in a session that was punctuated by 3 red flags.
We keep sort of, waiting for that big Rossi moment as he's moved over to the McLaren team. There's been signs that it was going to be on. I think Texas was the one that was really disappointing because we know how strong the Arrow McLaren team was in the race, and Rossi had that pin incident with Kyle Kirkwood and just never really got to show what the car, So I think we'll see it maybe this weekend, but they've been knocking on the door.
He's notched up 3 consecutive top 10s in the last 3 races here at Barber. Kevin Lee, good morning. We'll see if he can improve on that, keep that run going tomorrow.
Good morning, and I'll, by the way, start with vouching for your report about how lovely a day this is and what a great fan experience. As we see people already up on the hills. Just this morning, I've met 2 different groups from my hometown just west of Indianapolis in Avon, Indiana, who have made the drive down here. It's such a lovely place to just visit and get to experience race cars, and easy to get it done here this weekend. Let's talk Arrow McLaren. So 3 different cars, 3 different setups, and varied performance levels. There's Alexander Rossi, who just came into the pits. He's really happy on the primaries, which is all you're going to see in this practice session here today, but they actually went slightly, or no faster, I should say, on the alternates. Tough to get a lap in. And then you look at Pato O'Ward, who was faster. He's happy on the alternates and the primaries. And then Felix Rosenquist went slower on the alternates, so there's a concern. Talk with Craig Hampson, the engineer on the 7 car who helps globally with the entire program as well. So they're probably going to make some pretty big changes. But when I talked to Felix just a few minutes ago, he said it's important to remember we were good last year here. Let's don't panic. It's so hard to get a clean lap. Don't change everything just because we didn't find what we wanted on the couple of laps that we had that weren't even complete laps yesterday on the alternates. We think we're good. We were good last year. But remember, they're the team that did not test. One of the teams they're still learning as they go throughout the weekend.
Hey, T-Bell, take a snapshot of this. LL cars in the top 10. Lundgaard 3rd, Ray Hall 4th, Harvey 9th.
Probably won't stay there would be my guess, but it's a good way to start the session.
They'll take it.
To be fair, if you look back to the start of the season at St. Pete, they were nowhere in that regard, putting cars in the top 10 even in practice. It was a pretty big struggle. Things started to get a little bit better at Long Beach. And this is a racetrack where RLL has been strong in the past. Both Graham and Takuma Sato, when he drove for the team, they were the team to beat just a few years ago, so maybe they're finding some of that old mojo.
Lundgaard now goes up to 2nd, so no fluke here. Still a long way to go. We're not even halfway through this session, but that's a big improvement if it stays that way. And it's not for any lack of trying from the driver's side, the engineering side, everybody. Harvey's just been pushed back a couple of spots to 11th at the moment. Scott McLaughlin on the top step of the podium. Team Penske, by the way, has a wonderful times thus far.
The thing about Barber, as we've seen it through the years, is that this track puts such a premium on qualifying because you can sort of hang on in the lead, even with a damaged car. Remember when Graham Rahal got together with, he had front wing damage, was that with Grosjean? No, it was further back. I can't remember who he touched with, but he was leading, had some front wing damage, and still managed to sort of hang on for a bit with a damaged car. So track position is so critical here because you can drive dirty air for the driver behind you. You can move your car around a lot like an oval. This place races probably more like an oval than any road course on the schedule. And so today is so critical, and it's such an anxious moment for every these drivers because all they're focused on this morning is just, let's figure out that one lap. We need to figure out that perfect balance for that one lap in qualifying to get us up front.
We quite often get asked by fans, you know, what's your favorite IndyCar race, or what race will you always remember? I'll tell you, one of them for me was this guy's first ever IndyCar win happening here, because he was, you know, spent his time in Europe, came up through the junior categories, Joseph Newgarden. Everyone could see that talent. He was getting closer and closer and closer. And when he was with Carpenter Fisher Hartman Racing, CFH Racing, to get that breakthrough win in 2015 was just fantastic. And at that stage, we weren't racing in Nashville, Tennessee, so this was as close to a home race for Joseph, and that was just a landmark moment for him. You talk about the Texas crash, the injury, that's another moment, but the win here for him was part of his path and his roadway to Team Penske. And I'll never forget that afternoon because it was like, yes, finally he was validated that he could win an IndyCar race.
And you know, we talk every year here at Barber about the physicality of this race, especially when the ambient temperatures are high on race day. And if you watched 100 Days to Indy, the behind-the-scenes reality show that IndyCar's launched this season, got to appreciate the physicality of Joseph Newgarden. I mean, there's no driver that has that kind of physique more than Joseph Newgarden, and he's a warrior. And he's so tough in the cockpit.
Footballer, right?
I think he could play free safety, certainly in college with that physique. But just think back to when he broke his collarbone at Texas, and how brave and determined he was to come back despite the pain and the shortcomings. I think this is the kind of track where you've got to grab the bull by the horns, and this is a Newgarden type circuit where that physique, that strength, that sort of fearlessness despite the pain really caters to a driver like that. So have to see what the temperatures are going to be on race day, but if it's tough in the cockpit, he's tough to beat.
Well, speaking of physical fitness, this guy gets the thumbs up from PitFit's Jim Leo. That is Scott Dixon. This guy in his early 40s still trains flat out, has incredible endurance, and is just that guy who is always there, just always there. At the end of a season, at the end of a race, unfortunately he wasn't at Long Beach 2 weeks ago at the Acura Grand Prix. That altercation with Pato O'Ward was one of them. Ultimately, there was an issue that ended his day. It was a pretty frustrating day for the PNC Bank Honda team, the number 9 crew. So let's see what Dixon can do this weekend here in Alabama, in 4th position at the end of the first practice session.
You know, if you remember back to that Long Beach race, we had audio from Scott Dixon talking about, oh, if that's how they're going to race us, you know, look out, or something to that effect. And I thought after, you know, during the week after Long Beach, I thought, you know, Dixon's not the kind of guy that is going to retaliate in an obvious way.
Right.
It's going to come via a subtlety, and this is a reminder of what happened as Pato O'Ward made a pretty late and forceful move, but no penalty. It was deemed to be good, hard racing, but it put Dixon good and hard into the tire barrier and sent him to pit lane. And then issues.
Wants to forget about that. That's for sure. Will we see these two together on track again this weekend, and what will that look like?
And that, you know, that retaliation, that subtlety, I think could come in a wide variety of ways. You never know. It could be in practice at Indianapolis in terms of, you know, finding a clean lap and at the expense of Pato O'Ward, or it could be, you know, here at Barber in a subtle way. It could be in qualifying. And that's the kind of tactician that Dixon is. He's not going to do it overtly. He's just not going to go banging into a Ward overtly because he knows that he'll end up damaging his chances. So, you know, if you're Pato O'Ward, you've got to probably know that, hey, I got to be on my toes anytime I'm near Dixon because I just don't know when and where that retaliation might happen.
But if you think about over the course of his 20-plus years in the NTT IndyCar Series, Scott Dixon that is, I think you would find it very difficult, as O'Ward has to catch his car there, I think you'd find it very difficult, mate, to say, oh, I can pinpoint these people that Dixon's had an issue with. He doesn't create those spiteful moments with a driver. I mean, the irony is, one of the drivers who he's had multiple issues with is now his teammate, Takuma Sato. Those two have found each other over the years in not such great positions. But I struggle to name somebody who he's had issues with over the 20-plus years.
Just think about what you just said in the context of 6 championships.
Right.
The two go hand in hand together. Dixon, more than race wins, more than poles, is obsessed with championships because he knows that's what it's all about at the end of the day. That's what he's hired to do as a professional IndyCar driver, and he's delivered way more than any other driver in this field on that front, and he does it by thinking big picture at all times, including mitigating conflict with any other driver in the field. So I still think that there'll be some subtlety at some point, but it'll be, O'Ward might not even realize it's happening.
Penske 1-2, McLaughlin, Newgarden. Let's have a look at this, though. The Arrow McLaren Chevy, that's Pato O'Ward. That's catch number 1. Here comes catch number 2, top of the hill.
The Ninja.
Oh, yeah. There's those hands at work. Look at those white gloves.
Gotta love it. Subscribing to the white glove theory. If you've got fast hands, show them off with white gloves in the cockpit. That was no big thing. And for Will Power, that was a big thing yesterday.
Yeah.
That moment at the exit at turn 1. Now, with an adjusted, softer tire compound this year from Firestone, look at the graining on the right front, too, there. See that every year. With an adjusted tire compound for this year, one of the questions coming in is, what does that do to Pato O'Ward? Because 2 years ago, he really struggled to hang on to the back end of the race car. We talked a lot about degradation. Last year, we thought maybe the team had addressed some of that, but at the same time, Firestone had brought a harder tire, so it was tough to really filter. Was it driver adjustment, team adjustment, or just the tire adjustment that made it happen?
And in that picture, there's Kara Kristolic, who is the chief engineer for Firestone in IndyCar competition. The lady with the white shirt, black vest, just walking around with the purple laptop there, laptop cover, checking out Pato O'Ward's Firestone Firehawk tires before she moves on to the next team. And she has been a tremendous asset to Bridgestone Firestone over the years as the chief engineer here. Provides us with a lot of helpful information. And there she is there, as she continues to check out the tires up and down pit road. Kevin Lee with more. Kev?
Let's talk engines a little bit. We saw yesterday Romain Grosjean slow to a smoky stop, and Honda confirmed that they did have to put a fresh power plant just a little bit earlier than they planned in that engine. So he's trying to do a little bit of catch up, was quick in what little time he had on track yesterday, and top 10 speed here in the early going, but they want to try the alternates before they get going. Although actually he would have, no, you have to turn them back in. So yeah, he would not have them. You have to turn them in after practice 1. Also confirmed that Scott Dixon, after coming to a stop after the contact at Long Beach, that's a fresh Honda for him this weekend, earlier than they like. It is a different issue than what caused Grosjean to have the change, and we're getting to the point where it's just scheduled changes. Grosjean told me yesterday we were going to do that after this weekend. Well, some are even going to do it mid-weekend. I saw Honda in the Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan tent. The 45 of Christian Lundgaard, the Hy-Vee car, will have a new engine tomorrow for race day, and the same also for Alex Palou with Chip Ganassi Racing in the number 10.
Hey, Kev, I'm curious, as you're monitoring radio transmissions down there, if you're hearing more sort of race setup type feedback and dialogue from from pit to driver, or is it a little bit more one-lap quali type performance, even though they don't have the alternate tire to run here?
So I'll be honest and say I wouldn't be able to tell from the radio transmissions necessarily, but I asked a lot of people, drivers, engineers, team managers. It's still all about qualifying, because that was a question I asked. You're not running the reds in practice, which is what you're going to use in qualifying. Would you use some of this time to think about race? And it's no. No, you're doing the best you can to simulate what it's going to do when you go from primaries to alternates, because you do need to start up front here, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Well, 9 of the 12 winners, or 9 times out of the 12 races here, the winners have come from the first 2 rows. That's the premium that's placed on qualifying well here at Barber Motorsports Park. Just the nature of the racetrack. This guy told us after his first experience here at Barber Motorsport Park, Scott McLaughlin said, I reckon that Barber Motorsports Park requires as much commitment, if not more, than Mount Panorama Bathurst for the Bathurst 1000, and that is saying a lot.
That is saying a lot. If you've ever seen an onboard, or even if you haven't, look up McLaughlin at Mount Panorama. It's something special.
And this part here coming up is where there's a lot of commitment. Check this out. Remember 2 years ago? Right there is where Joseph Newgarden lost it on the opening lap, created chaos with a multi-car crash a couple of years ago. It's blind, and you've got to be maximum attack, maximum commitment.
What does he do here? How much curve do you take? Oh, a lot. Locked up the front axle, cased the bottom of the car. I'd say that was a little bit too much. And I think that change with the additional concrete to the inside of the apex is going to be a ton of experimentation still this session and in qualifying when they go light fuel, sticker reds, and really try to maximize it there. I think we're going to see a lot of mistakes this afternoon and a lot of risk and reward decision making.
Look how tight it is at the top. McLaughlin 106.7, Newgarden 106.7, Lundgaard 106.7, Rossi 106.7. Nice and tight. Let's take you back a couple of years ago and remind you what happened on that opening lap. T-Bell, it was crazy.
2 years ago, Newgarden losing it right up the hill, and that was Ryan Hunter on board here with Hunter Ray. And we didn't appreciate at the time just what a marvelous job the aero screen did to protect Hunter Ray. That was a hard hit for Newgarden, taking out several cars.
Felix Rosenquist, Max Chilton, there was a bunch. And there just how blind that corner is. And if you let your eyes wander a little bit, you'll really get the full feel of the elevation and the climb, the steepness of that blind turn.
Just think about the camera positioning, probably a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet above the eye line for Alexander Rossi. So if it's blind from that elevation, you can only imagine. This is a little lower than Rossi's eyes, so you got to split the difference, but this really helps you appreciate elevation change at Barber.
All right, let's go for a ride. Mission onboards, Alexander Rossi. Turn it up, have a listen. Let's go.
Voice of Brian Barnhart, Rossi's strategist, giving him the gap to Will Power behind, plus 3 seconds. I know we can't see Rossi's hands here, Diff, but I like the sound.
Smooth.
Just sounds, you know, listen in the throttle application. You can listen for brake bias, just acoustically listening for any rear axle lockup, any maybe front tire screech. Tough to tell a little bit on the front tires, but it's amazing what you can just hear, even if you can't see. It just sounds predictable, deliberate in terms of the throttle inputs and the braking. Rossi P4. That last lap from Rossi was a 1:08.2.
+3, you got this one and 2 more.
Great learning here. I mean, for a 27-car grid, for Alexander Rossi to find a gap, he's got 3 seconds behind him and probably 10 to 12 seconds in front of him. That's ideal and huge in practice to be able to slot into that sort of position where you don't have to be disrupted with dirty air when you're totally focused on qualifying. That's the gap that you want. So good job from not only Rossi, but everybody on his stand, including Brian Barnhart, to find your driver a perfect private piece of pavement.
Good session for Marcus Armstrong, the rookie from Chip Ganassi Racing. He's in the top 10. He's tested here, and he has adapted to this track very quickly. American Legion Honda. Here is the young Kiwi. Just his third IndyCar race weekend of his burgeoning career. Callum Ilott, equally as impressive.
Copy that.
In 8th. David Malukas, nice session. Just over 20 minutes left in this session. Find out where he is in his exploration of this Barber Motorsports Park precinct. Davo?
While I still had the keys to the golf cart, I want to show you one more spot that impressed me about Barber Motorsports Park. And maybe you're not a person that hikes like we talked about earlier. Maybe your life is a little bit different. Maybe you served our country and your life is spent on wheels now, and you need some convenient blue parking right there. You need a smooth walkway, nicely maintained, to an awesome viewing pad of turn number 13. That is what Barber Motorsports Park has here. We see it, we really, really like it, and we watched Pato's fast hands today. Yesterday, he made a great tails away save right here on this side of the hill, but on the other side, it was right towards another sit and get a great view of the racing here. So just wanted to let you know, it's a great spot. Don't be intimidated by Barber Motorsports Park just because there are lots of hills and lots of sculptures, you know, that look like ants. But come on out and check the place out. You can get around here.
If you remember an unpaved section we might have explored over there in a golf cart a few years ago.
I see this very steep hill leading down to a fence in front of these folks enjoying their Saturday. Townsend decided that our or something like that, a Polaris, which it clearly wasn't. We almost went through that fence and then had to try and work our way back up somehow, and of which I was the passenger, of course.
You need
the unwilling passenger.
You need to listen to Dave. Nothing to be
I've seen my
totally
life,
under control.
I've seen my life flash before my eyes several times with you at the wheel.
Oh, we've had some fun, my friend. We've had some fun. Pato Award having some fun right now, but trying to get himself up with his teammates. Arrow McLaren 4th, 7th, and 9th. Look at this replay, Arenas VK. Oh.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Nice save.
Romain Grosjean up to 3rd, Christian Lundgaard 4th. This guy here would like to see and experience the fortune that he had last year, being at the front of the field for the majority of the day in his Bitnile Chevy. Currently he's in 22nd position. Let's go for a little ride and have a listen with VK.
For fuel.
All right, so he's coming in this time. Here's massive commitment right here, up and over. That's where Pato Award went for a ride yesterday. Alex Palou to the top with 17 minutes to go.
You know, you've got to wonder for Arenas VK, last year, pole sitter. Oh!
Benjamin Peterson.
55, the Sexton Properties AJ Foyt car, 26 quickest so far, but big moment there.
Benjamin worked incredibly hard yesterday, had the second highest lap count, turned 27 laps in the opening practice session. What happened to the rookie? Top of the hill, turn 2. Very similar to Will Power, but was able to arrest the speed a little quicker.
I'm kind of liking the way these styrofoam A-frames are actually working as a kind of a softish speed deterrent. You know, if you think about Pato Award, you know, they're hard enough to slow the car down. They don't appear to be too hard to damage the car, but you don't see a lot of those typically placed at the exit of really fast corners. Maybe they're onto something here at Barber.
on board the Gainbridge Honda, Colton Herter, been gradually sneaking up on it race by race this season. And we were chatting off air, Townsend, before. If you take his unfortunate incident with Will Power on the streets of St. Petersburg to kick the season off, he's been having a very Will Power-esque start to this season, meaning gathering good points, getting better each race, just nice and consistent, yet to stand on the podium. But that doesn't matter. He's trending in the right direction.
Well, and I think it's super interesting. We've already talked about the impact that Brian Herta appears to have had on Kyle Kirkwood's program in a positive way. And I really have been thinking a lot about what Colton Herta's result at Texas 7th and Long Beach 4th. We didn't talk a lot about Colton in those events. There was nothing spectacular going on, but as he drops a couple of wheels in the grass. But I think that might be progress for Colton Herta, that we weren't seeing crazy things or hearing crazy things on the radio. We weren't seeing superhuman efforts over a lap. It was just stay within yourself and finish races. Is that a turning point for Colton Herta that maybe doesn't make him as lightning fast in these crazy moments as he was, but potentially a better championship driver? You mentioned the willpower-like performances. Yeah. Maybe that's a turning point. So in total, for Andretti to make those positional moves between the two teams, I think it's a net gain clearly across the board.
He's down in 20th at the moment, by the way. If you're wondering where Colton Herta is, a little bit of a moment there. Imagine remember the huge crash that Alexander Rossi had there last year, where he went off track right there, across the grass and into the barrier.
That was almost a big moment. It was a big moment, almost a big off.
How about Devlin DiFrancesco, his teammate from Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport, sneaking his way into the top 8 in the 29 machine? This is what happened to Herta.
That was a violent wiggle at probably 150 miles an hour, fully committed. I love the fact that we're seeing a lot more white gloves in IndyCar this season. All of our fast hand guys, Colton Herta, Pato O'Ward, Scott McLaughlin. I think Newgarden's probably got white gloves. There's Marcus Ericsson with a set of whiteys.
Championship leader in the Husky Chocolate Honda. Now, you might not think this off the top of your head, but let's give you a little interesting nugget on Marcus Ericsson. Speaking specifically road courses only, this guy over the last 2 seasons has the best average finish. Would you have said that before you saw that? I'd say no.
Well, does that mean he's been average?
No, it means that he hasn't had any disasters on road
That's
courses.
right. And I think what we see from Marcus Ericsson this year is the killer instinct seems present everywhere. It doesn't feel like Marcus Ericsson is driving defensively anymore. He's driving to optimize every session and every moment, and confidently so. He feels like he belongs in this championship lead position. He feels like he belongs in a race winning position. It's all coming together, and when you couple that with the consistency, it reminds me a lot of his 2 teammates, Scott Dixon and Alex Palou. So if you're Chip Ganassi right now, I think you're looking at the driver field and saying, I've got 3 phenomenal championship contenders in my stable. And this doesn't hurt either.
Yeah.
Taylor Kyle coming over
from the former president at Arrow McLaren Racing to be on the box, on the radio with Marcus Ericsson. So I'm just intrigued as we get closer to getting back to Indianapolis, where this guy is, of course, the reigning Indianapolis 500 champion. Loves that place, got a tremendously stable group around him on this number 8 car. They just see him to go from strength to strength at the moment. Ericsson's a little lower than where he'd like to be, but it's only practice. He's in 19th at the moment, 12.5 minutes to go.
Kevin, we've talked a little bit about Marcus Ericsson in terms of contract situation. I'd say easily the best free agent on the market. Any updates since you last reported at Long Beach?
I have not asked Marcus about that at this point, but I did talk to him for a while at Long Beach on that situation. And, you know, he was somewhat it wasn't like he was angry about it, but I think he wanted it known last year, essentially making cracks like pretty good for a pay driver, meaning he was still required to bring a little bit of budget from someone to make the deal work, and the contract is up, and you've won the Indy 500, you won multiple races, and I think he rightfully feels like I should just be simply a paid driver. I know Chip Ganassi publicly has said, we really want Marcus back, but the negotiation is going on. So short answer should have been no, but it's still a little bit too early, but it is getting close. These deals often start happening sometime in month of May. And if for some reason they can't come to an agreement and Ericsson does have the ability to talk to others, I gotta believe others are gonna be interested in his services. So my best guess is Chip Ganassi does not let him get away.
I agree with you. There's the boss looking on. What a magical day that was last Memorial Day Sunday. That was just fantastic.
Guy's yawning. He's so used to winning. This is just old news.
Well,
he's a busy man. He deserves a yawn on a Saturday, but he is all about what happens at the finish line. You know, the way I think Chip manages his team is all about putting the very best out there and just sitting back. I mean, he doesn't have much to do because he's put all the right people in the right places. And I don't know if it's fair to say, but it's almost like he just shows up as a fan knowing, hey, I've done everything I can do. I can't control anything at this point. He's the most hands-on, hands-off guy, if you know what I mean. Hands-on in terms of putting the best people out there, and hands-off on race day in terms of just sitting back and watching them do their thing.
He's had a busy morning because as far as Cadillac racing with Chip Ganassi in the World Endurance Championship at Spa this weekend, huge crash suffered by Renger van der Zande in the Cadillac GTP prototype, and fortunately Renger's okay, but that was massive. Also Team Penske with Porsche Penske Motorsport, busy in different countries, different categories. Of course, Penske with their NASCAR commitments as well. So super busy weekend for several of the teams, both on their IndyCar side of things, NASCAR and sports car racing. Joseph Newgarden jumps up to second, leapfrogs his teammate with 9.5 minutes remaining. Alex Palou on top, the winner from 2 years ago here at Barber Motorsports Park, as we continue to ride with Will Power. He's a little further down the order in 16th in the Verizon Chevy. What a great turnaround that was by the 12 team yesterday for Will to have that hiccup in turn 1 and 2, get back to the pits, make sure the car's okay, sends him back out and finishes that session in 3rd place. So that was a really quick, speedy, efficient turnaround to end practice 1 on a high.
Pretty busy hands exiting the final corner. Let's see what happens at turn 1. This is where the incident happened yesterday. Little short shift there. That was cool. Power down through turn 3 is, I think, more challenging than we've seen in years past as the pavement ages just a little bit more here. I'm seeing more struggles at the back end of the car in practice than I can remember in that section. And you heard it there with Power really anticipating the low grip by short shifting quite aggressively, quite early. And we call it tractor pulling, putting the motor in the low rev range and just allowing it to help modulate your wheel spin.
Pato O'Ward, defending race winner in the Arrow McLaren Chevy. Kevin, let's talk more.
Well, there was slight concern midweek that Pato might not be available for the entire weekend. He was dealing with either food poisoning, some sort of virus, or whatever it might be. It wasn't a big concern. They thought he's going to be fine. But you know what? We've got someone with IndyCar experience that's working with the team. Looky there. There is Zach Veach in an Arrow McLaren shirt. He's on top of the hill right now. He's simply spotting for Felix Rosenquist. But I chatted with Zach for a little while, and I talked with Gavin Ward with the team as well. He's been working with the team in their simulator in Charlotte for the last year or so, providing some information to try to transfer to the racetrack. And since he was already working with the team, had been in the simulator, knew their setups, Gavin decided, the team decided, well, let's go ahead and have him here at the racetrack on standby, just in case, since we have him, if Pato's not feeling well for a practice or something else. And he's been fine since he got here. But it's good for Zach Veach to kind of let people remind him, hey, this young man did a great job getting an IndyCar, finished as high as fourth in a race at Long Beach, did 4 Indy 500s. So Zach Veach is still very much involved in the racing business.
That's good to see. Thanks for that update, Kevin. You mentioned that he may not have made it because of not feeling so well early in the week. On his left hand as well, just speaking briefly with Pato yesterday, noticed that he had some KT tape on his left wrist area and left hand. I said, what happened, mate? Was that, did you tweak it at Long Beach with those altercations? And he said, yeah, a little bit. It's just more preventative, just trying to take care of myself with that tape on his left hand, but it's not affecting him too badly out there, sitting in 8th position. 6.5 minutes to go before we start talking about qualifying.
Guy's a boxer. I wouldn't be too worried about his hands. They're calloused up, ready to go. He's used to the impact, the wear and tear.
Just looking up and down that timing order before qualifying, we need to find out what's going on at Team RLL, because there's a disparity. Lundgaard has been able to stay in the top 10. Graham Rahal and his fellow teammate Jack Harvey have fallen back into the teens and 20s. So Lundgaard, at the place where he first drove an IndyCar a couple of years ago, has fond memories, is keeping that Hy-Vee Honda in the top 10. So that's a he's going on with the stable platform that he made yesterday.
Looking pretty good. Lundgaard comes through the museum complex. Dave, just watching Christian Lundgaard here. What do you know from pit lane?
Well, I just talked to him this morning, had a chance to catch up, because I really hadn't talked to him this year. And of course, there have been a lot of down around RLL, but he has been with the team on a little bit of an up. And so I asked him about that. Nice fast hands right there. He said, no, we're going in the right direction. And by the way, he was on brand new primary Firestones for this run, which would suspect him to be his final run of the day. But he said, this is the best start to the weekend we've had all season long. I expect the trend to go in the same direction as we move along. And as you can see, top 10 now for him, looking good for Lundgaard. And by the way, you guys like new liveries on cars? You're going to find out Sunday what his favorite flavor of Gatorade is. He says, my suit will be brand new. There will be no mistake about what my favorite Gatorade is.
Can't wait for that. Saw how quickly he was reaching for the brake bias knob going into turn 1. It helps you appreciate how busy your hands are here.
Yeah.
I think of all road courses, you get the least amount of brake time to make any sort of cockpit adjustment. I mean, just a few seconds between high G corners, heavy brake zones. And if you miss that brake bias adjustment, you have to wait a half a lap till you get another chance.
Busy here, setting up for this turning sequence of right-handers. Turn 5, they're exiting now. You get a short break here, ever so short, before you set up for the sequence of turns there at the museum section. Closing 4 minutes here. What was up with the Meyer Shank machine? I think that was Simon Pagenaud just running slowly, maybe trying to find a nice little gap, perhaps. Now he's back at speed, so there he goes. So just to your point, busy here. You have a short break, but really busy. This is high speed, high Gs. You get another short break, but then you're setting up for this maximum commitment here. Boom, you get Gs in every direction. Up and over. Again, turn, turn, turn. The side of the Newgarden move on the inside there. We'll see if he executes that tomorrow. No rest, no rest. Here's your greatest point of rest.
You know, I was just thinking, at the beginning of my IndyCar driver era, when we had a sequential shift knob and 900 horsepower, I don't even know if it'd be possible to drive around Barber Motorsports Park, reaching down to grab those shifts and putting all of that load, especially on your left shoulder with some of these long right-hand corners. Still physical today, even more so back then. And just watching that brake bias adjustment from Lundgaard's a reminder how you really need two hands at all times just to muscle an IndyCar with the downforce these cars make as Mike Shank looks on. I like what I saw yesterday from this team, which was both Elio and Pagenaud ran 8 laps on the alternate tires, and I think that's important. That was second to only David Malukas, who ran 9 laps, to just for them to both get a read of what's the race going to be like on the alternate compound. What does degradation look like? Because based on so far this year, I think they're going to have to maybe go alternate strategy on things like setup or how they conduct practice, because they haven't been able to do it on pure pace. We just haven't seen much yet out of these 2 cars.
That's fair. Show you some replays just from a few moments ago. The PPG Chevy Joseph Newgarden. Hey! Pato Award, fellow Chevrolet driver.
Boom! I mean, between that moment, Diff, and what he had yesterday, this is Colton Herta.
It's close to the Meyer Shank machine. Look at him looking. I think he's going to yield. Yeah, he does. Lets it go.
Don't expect that on race day. But I was going to say, Pato Award, those are 2 incredible saves to not lose the back end of the car between what just happened in the museum corner and then yesterday.
Get it out of your system now.
Over on the backside, yeah, but I mean, if you just think about what happened at Long Beach for Pato Award, it was pretty aggressive driving there that led to a poor result, and got to start to wonder, is he trying a little too hard right now?
Well, he's still second in points. He's 15 back from Marcus Ericsson. A couple of seconds and then an oopsie. So he wants to forget about Long Beach as quickly as he can, which he already has. As soon as you put your helmet on and hands device.
Red flag.
Red flag. Turn 9. Who is it? Up. It's Elio Castro Neves.
And just by the evidence suggested with the black tire marks there, I'm going to guess he just lost it on the power. Looks like maybe he got a little wide mid-corner.
He is right in front of us. We are looking out our booth window, just seeing him right now.
Why do I feel like this happened to Elio in the exact same spot last year in practice?
It did. And it happened also at Long Beach. We asked him yesterday. He said, yeah, I jumped on the gas too hard. So let's see. We'll find out when we watch the replay here. It'll tell us more about the driver of the Sirius XM Auto Nation Honda.
Yeah, that looks freakishly similar to Castro Neves here last year. Just spinning up the rears.
AMR safety team arrive on the scene as promptly as always to help this man who had a pretty big moment in this region of the track yesterday over in Museum Turn when he went across the gravel trap and into the tire barriers.
It's one of the reminders of some of the numerous adjustments that you have as a driver with your engine technician is the throttle map design. Because the throttle pedal is a fly-by-wire system, you can shape with effectively infinite adjustment how much power is delivered by the engine at different throttle pedal percentage positions. And one of the things that allows you to do is remap how the throttle comes on specifically for a corner like that and try to smooth out and increase drivability in some of the slow corners. So it wouldn't surprise me if Castro Neves comes back to the pits, huddles with his Honda engineer and says, let's look at this. I've had trouble 2 years in a row. Let's think about reshaping the mapping there and try to take some of the bite out of the power down to just help me not have that issue again.
Well, this is what happened to him a year ago here at Barber Motorsports Park. Same part of the track. Almost identical. Except wall contact this time. Oh, sorry, last time.
Yeah, so I think if you're Elio, you come back to the pits and say, well, we've made an improvement. I didn't hit anything, and I stayed on the track.
Well,
one step at a time.
Everybody's guaranteed 45 minutes of running in this session. Here is today. This happened just a few moments ago. Like we said, eerily similar. So everyone will get at least one more flying lap in this session. We just got the message from race control when Elio returns, and here he is. He's already back on pit lane. And the session will open back up again with everybody guaranteed one more flying lap of green. And we give you the menu for what's coming up later today. So it's going to be a really quick turnaround 3 p.m. Eastern, right here live on Peacock. Alex Palou says, that'll do me. I'm quickest. I'm out of the car already, talking and debriefing with Barry Wanzer. Tomorrow we're going to have a warm-up at noon Eastern. Indy next race after that, and then you'll see us on network television. NBC, 3 p.m. Eastern, for the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix. Can't wait for that. 90 laps around this. That is a test. 90 laps.
Oh, yeah.
These drivers are exhausted at the end of that.
A little bit of overcast right now, which helps keep the ambient down. 74 degrees, beautiful outside, not particularly humid. But just looking at the top 10 right now from a team perspective, 2 Penskes, 3 Ganassis, 2 Aero McLarens, 2 Andretti's,
one
RLL car. I mean, I don't know, you pick a pole sitter, Dave.
Yeah, it's a good spread. It's a good
Where
spread.
are they going to be?
This guy started outside the front row, outside pole last year. What's tomorrow going to look like? What's qualifying today going to look like? You really got to be, that line in the sand really is that line to make the Firestone Fast 6.
And you know that a mistake in qualifying will crush your chances, even the tiniest mistake. But you also know that if you're soft, if you are too conservative, it's going to bite you hard as well. And Kevin, this qualifying is going to be amazing. I wonder what some of the drivers in pit lane are going to tell us about what's going to come this afternoon.
Well, let's find out what one of them thinks might come this afternoon. Pretty good pick for pole is Alex Palou, who's finished, what, first and second here in the races. What might you have for qualifying today?
Yeah, we're looking strong. I don't know if that practice results are true with the traffic and stuff, but I mean, I'm happy with the car. Number 10 Ridgeline car was really fast yesterday and also today, so it's going to be a tight qualifying as always in IndyCar and here at Barber. But yeah, feeling pretty comfortable so far.
How much concern about just getting the best pace that you have, finding track space and getting your lap in qualifying?
Yeah, it should be easier with the group splits in qualifying, but yeah, during practice it's tough. It's tough for everybody. Everybody wants to have like at least 5 to 6 second gap, and if you count with all the cars that we have, it should be only 3 seconds per car. So yeah, I mean, at least we got some good running, car feeling great, so yeah, kind of wait for qualifying now.
Alex Palou, fastest in practice too. Down to Dave.
Talking to Christian Lundgaard this morning, and we were opining about how the weekend had gone well, maybe your best weekend so far this year. Did it continue right there?
I would say so. I mean, we were there in the beginning of the session. We didn't quite finish where we really wanted to. I feel like there's more in the car, but probably not the same pace as Palou. We know qualifying is a different type of commitment, so we'll see what we can do there.
And that commitment, we've been discussing it a lot. I guess when you have a good car, is there more pressure to get that exact lap or maybe a little less pressure?
It's difficult to say. I mean, qualifying, there's always more pressure. I mean, everyone expects more. This is the time you need to shine. But again, it's what we drivers really love. It's the qualifying. We love to win for sure, but qualifying is where we get to go absolutely max out and give it what it's got. So there's a different type of commitment for sure.
You saw the smile come. Qualifying should be fun, Lee.
We'll see what Christian Lundgaard in that Hy-V Honda can do. He started 14th last year, finished 15th. There is the man who's trying to go back-to-back as far as wins here in Alabama. That's Arrow McLaren's Pato O'Ward. A quick reminder about the menu again. Maybe you got enough time to go and mow the lawn, do a few chores. We'll see you back here in a short period of time. Everybody's going to debrief, grab a little bit of lunch, and then it's go fast day. Qualifying for the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix here at Barber Motorsports Park. Quick break, we'll see you back right here, live on Peacock at 3 Eastern to set the field for the 90-lap race tomorrow at this beautiful racing venue. See you soon.